Our first day out saw us leaving home and driving up the Pacific Highway, past Port Macquarie and Kempsey, up the Southwest Rocks. We stopped off at the camping ground there, the caravan park. Got a nice spot. Next day, we went around to Trial Bay, seeing the old camping ground where we stayed there before, just down from the jail. This jail never really got used that much. It's now a museum, but it's still beautifully situated right on the headland. We drove down to the Macleay River. It's quite a major river before it comes out of the Southwest Rocks, and of course it doesn't actually come out in the township. It's about a kilometre or so out of town. You could follow that path right out to the breakwater, but we decided to take a much more scenic route, crossing over the footbridge at the creek. From there we head along this little bush track for a while. We saw lots of these little fellows, and they would scurry into their holes as soon as they saw us coming. The pathway came onto a track, which eventually led out to the breakwater, and we were able to scramble up over the rocks onto the path. The bar looked reasonably flat. We walked along to the end of the breakwater, then back down over the rocks onto the sand, and walked the kilometre or so back along the beach to the creek. The creek's only kept open by constant dredging. And from here we just walked up the little sandy track back up to the footbridge. We took off from Southwest Rocks, headed north through Coffs Harbour, up round to Grafton, along the Gwydir Highway to Man River, in the little caravan park. Lovely little spot. I had thought about doing some kayaking, but apparently it's a bit too shallow. It's not always that way, as the remains of the old bridge can still be seen. We did a trip around the old Glen Innes road and went through the convict tunnel. On the way back round towards Glen Innes, and then we headed back towards Man River, and we stopped in the Gibraltar Range, the Boundary Falls walk. We went down to have a look at these beautiful falls. Once you get down to the bottom, you walk along the little pathway next to the creek. and soon you come to the pool and the falls. A few kilometres down the road, we stopped at the Raspberry Lookout. We left Man River and drove up over the top of Gibraltar Range on our way to Glen Innes. And halfway along we stopped at the Mulligan's campsite. Mulligan was going to develop some hydroelectric power, and he built this hut to do some water testing. When we arrived at Glen Innes, we set up camp in the showgrounds. And then the next day we drove up to Tenterfield. This is a very neat, tidy town, and obviously been quite affluent in its day. A great post office. And even the School of Arts is a substantial building, as are some of the old houses. The railway station these days is a museum, as the railway no longer comes through town. Some great relics of the old days of the railway. This old cattle cart is 100 years old. The floorboards worn by many hooves. And the old sheep carrier, 2 levels. I remember them when I first came to Australia, being used on the railway. And 100 years ago, this is how you would carry meat. Just hung up in hooks, no refrigeration in those days. The guard had a little bit of comfort in that he had a stove to stay warm on the winter days. From Tenterfield we came back down Ferry Torrington. There's a nice walk there. Takes you up to one of Thunderbolt's lookouts. It follows a track up the hill until it comes to where the rocks start, and from there a path goes up in between all the rocks. Until you come to a gap between some big rocks. You can clamber under those and a few others, and on the other side you come out to a 5-meter ladder taking you up to the lookout. This is a glorious lookout with 360-degree views. Once you've taken in the view, you can head back down to the car. The next day, we had to pack up. I wanted to see how quickly we could do it. Pretty good. From Glen Innes, we had a gentle drive across to Inverell. Di wasn't feeling terribly well, so I took a walk down to the National Transport Museum. First car I see inside the door is the beautiful old MGA, probably one of the prettiest sports cars ever made. And they had a lot of old cars, Model Ts upwards. In fact, this Model T was beautifully restored. As was the Renault. Interestingly, this one was bought locally in 1912. Look at the prices. The next couple of rows was cars from the 30s, 40s and 50s. One took my eye, which was the Humber Super Snipe. When I was a young kid, we had a Humber Hawk, the slightly smaller version. I loved the line of these Rileys. The old Vanguards were a real workhorse. When I came to Australia, the GTHO was one of the favourite racing cars. I had to do with buying an HR, and it was also one of my favourite cars of all time, really, the E-Type Jaguar. And from a fun car, how about this little Messerschmitt? They also had a collection of bikes, both vintage and round to modern bikes. And from my teenage days, there's the old Triumphs. And of course the BSA Bantam, the bike everybody started on, 125 or 175 cc's. From there I went down to do a walk at Wignall State Conservation Area. And this was a great walk, went along Thunderbolt Circuit and then took the link road out onto the Middle Creek before taking the link road back. This is known as the Waterfall Circuit. But I had to include going back up to Thunderbolt's Lookout, so we went up there before we retraced our steps back to the car. The walk heads out along a nice track, and it comes to the intersection where Thunderbolt's Way heads off. But we're going to go straight on along the link road. Now this link track actually will take us down to the creek, so it descends all the way down. And when it comes to the Middle Creek track, we follow along that. Over this rock platform we came to a place called the Slot. I imagine if there was a bit of water going down, it'd be much more fun to look at. And then we carried along the track for about half a kilometre. Until we came to the falls turn off. Basically the whole creek was just large boulders. I'm sure the waterfall would be brilliant if there was water going down. Back on the track, still some more interesting boulders to look at. How about this nicely balanced pair? We come back on the link road and head up the hill towards Thunderbolt's Lookout. Again, from here, great views from Inverell round to the east. The next day we went around to the pioneer village. For a small town, they've done a very, very good job of putting this together. Loved all the old steam engines. This reminds me of my primary school. And then there was the homestead. Out the back was the kitchen. And no village would be complete without a church. Or a hall. Still lots of these old halls around the countryside. The hotel was pretty basic. I'm sure the bar had done some business in its time. The owners had quite a nice little section for themselves, and some very basic rules. In a separate building was the kitchen. And there was always a blacksmith's with the anvil and forge. Some rabbit traps, some branding irons. His bed was pretty simple. I loved this old F.E. Holden. It was used as a small bus going from Glen Innes to Inverell. It did over 1.5 million miles. And they also had the lovely, beautifully restored Fergie. Lots of old farm implements. And of course tractors from every era. In fact, here they had a couple of old combine harvesters, and even a couple of the old threshing mills I remember from my childhood. From Inverell, we took a 1 hour drive down to the southwestern side of Copeton Waters to the holiday park, which is a very basic holiday park. But we got an excellent camping area to ourselves. On one of the fine days, I went out for a paddle on the kayak. The first thing I saw was a couple of emus grazing in the grass, which had been growing since the water was receded during the summer. Didn't seem overly worried about me. Just a beautiful day. the way back I went round this little island. Soon arrived back at the car. We've been delayed at Copeton Waters a couple of days with bad weather. We were going to free camp at Bingara and Baraba. We went past Split Rock Dam and into Manilla, but we ended up going to Lake Keepit State Park. We stopped there for a few days, but the weather didn't improve, with thunderstorms coming through on a very regular basis. We did manage to get some time to walk along the edge, and I also managed to get a couple of good paddles in. Now from Lake Keepit we ended up going down to Coolah Tops. Now Coolah Tops is about 30 kilometers to the east of Coolah. And this national park, we decided just to go and have a look at a few things, go down to the falls, and then to head back up and have a look at some of the camping grounds and some of the other lookouts. We took a walk down to the falls, and the track zigzagged its way down. And then walked out and across to the viewing platform. From there you can see down the cliff face where the water was going down. Surprisingly, after all the rain, there wasn't much going down into the creek. From above the falls, it goes across the bedrock and then down over a few rocks and out over the cliff face. The barracks camping ground is a nice area. All these little alcoves built into the bush. Be a very nice place to come and camp. We decided to go down to Rocky Creek Falls and to the picnic area. We walked down there. This is our sort of picnic area, a table and nothing else. And we walked the extra 50 meters down to see where there's another set of falls here, but they're almost dry as well. There are, however, great views from here. Very impressive. We head up to the northern lookout. Another nice camping area, I would suggest. And the view from here, again, was quite spectacular.